Assalamualaikum and welcome dear students of class 10th again. I'm again here with the new chapter, that is chapter number 2, An Excellent Father by Jane Austen. So let us look towards the chapter and understand it. An Excellent Father is an extract from Jane Austen's famous novel Pride and Prejudice. The main theme of the play is marriage. The main theme of this play is marriage. The novel shows how women marry men they are not in love with simply in order to gain financial security. The most important characters of this passage are Mr. and Mrs. Bennet, Jane, Elizabeth, and Mr. Bingley. Mr. Bennet is a gentleman who lives with his wife and 5 daughters at Longhorn House. Mr. Bennet seldom shows anger. He prefers to laugh at people's weaknesses. His wife was foolish, quick-tempered woman. Her chief aim in life is to find rich husbands for her daughters. Jane, the eldest of Bennet's daughters and also the prettiest. Jane was the Mr. and Mrs. Bennet's daughter and she was prettiest, beautiful. Elizabeth was a second daughter of Mr. and Mrs. Bennet. She and was always ready to speak her mind. Kitty was another daughter of Mr. and Mrs. Bennet. Charles Bingley, a rich, handsome, eligible, and single gentleman in the prose. The prose extract has been taken from Jane Austen's famous novel Pride and Prejudice, already told, which after considerable revision appeared as Pride and Prejudice in 1830. This novel tells the story of the gradual union of two people, one held back by unconquerable pride and other blinded by prejudice. Thus the name Pride and Prejudice. Pride means gurur. Prejudice means jealousy. So let us start. Mr. Bennet seems to be a careless father who is not bothered about the marriage of his daughters who have attained marriageable age. The chapter starts when Mr. Bingley rents Netherfield Park to a young rich man named Mr. Bingley. When Mr. Bennet, Mrs. Long sees Netherfield is taken by a young man of Bingley. Yes, this was Mr. Bingley. So, I have already told you Mr. Bingley was a handsome young rich man. Netherfield Park is in the neighborhood of Mr. Bennet's house. Mrs. Bennet becomes very cautious about her daughter because she does not want to lose this opportunity of marrying one of her daughters to Mr. Bingley. Actually, this novel is written in 19th century when there was a custom that the property was taken over by only male members. Since Mr. Bennet had no son, so his property was to be owned by any of his close relatives. That is why Mrs. Bennet was very much worried about the fate of her daughters. On hearing about the arrival of Mr. Bingley, she tells her husband to develop some familiarity with him. Who tells? Mrs. Bennet tells to Mr. Bennet. But he reacts very lightly to this news. He starts teasing his wife and comments that should send the girls to meet Mr. Bingley, but should not go herself, for she is very beautiful even in her old age. So he was Mr. Bennet was always taking things lightly. Finally, Mrs. Bennet gets very disappointed because of her husband's loose reaction. As a result, in a fit of anger, she scolds her daughter Kitty for coughing. Ultimately, when she comes to know that her husband, Mr. Bennet, had visited Mr. Bingley, she feels relaxed and overwhelmed. In the end, she tells her daughter, you have an excellent father." Because she comes to know that Mr. Bennet had actually paid the visit to Mr. Bingley Stadsley without telling anyone of them. So, if we see the lesson, it is just a it just seems that it is not a full. The story is not in full. So actually, I think you also have noticed that in the end only this happened, that the Mrs. Bennet told her daughters that your father is an excellent father, as he had visited Mr. Bingley. So this is all about the chapter an excellent father. So in the end, I have already told you Mr. Ben disclosed that he had already visited Mr. Bingley and cannot miss the family to with him. All the girls are extremely surprised and happy. Mrs. Bennet now merrily tells Mr. Bennet that she knew she could persuade him at the end. She also tells her daughter that they have an excellent father. So this is all about this chapter. You will do the reading of the same, go through the glossary, and also I will provide you the notes of the same. So this was all for the day. Thank you. Have a great day.